Shabbat Shalom! We're in the fifth aliyah of Parashat Bechukotai, or My Decree. Leviticus 27:16 says, "If one consecrates to Adonai part of the field of his possession, then your valuation is to be in proportion to the seed to sow it." That's a lot of big words. What does that mean? Do you remember what consecrate means? Yes, it means to make holy. So if someone wants to make part of his land to be holy to the Lord, then the value of that land is equal to the amount of seeds needed to sow it. Continuing with the verse, an omer of barley at 50 shekels of silver. Wait a minute, an omer? Like what we've been counting? Do you remember how much an omer is? It's a few cups, like maybe a couple of these. That's not much. Is this a really small parcel of land? Like half my backyard? This is an English translation. Maybe we should check the Hebrew. There's a translation problem. An omer is ayin mem resh, but in this verse it's not an omer, it's a chomer, like this in Hebrew, chet mem resh. That is a different measurement, like many of these. Okay, so how much is a chomer? It's enough seed to sow the parcel of land roughly as much as one donkey can carry. One chomer for 50 shekels of silver from the year of Jubilee. After that, the Kohen calculates how much it is worth based on the number of years left until the next Jubilee. So if the land is consecrated 5 years into the cycle, it's 45 instead of 50, because 50 minus 5 is 45. This means that what is actually being dedicated is the number of harvests or crops left until the next Jubilee. Now, if the owner wants to redeem the land, buy it back, he adds a fifth of its worth and it will remain his. So if he dedicated it for 50 shekels, he redeems it for 50 plus 1/5. What's 1/5 of 50? Yes, 10. So 50 plus 10 is 60. Yes, he can redeem it for 60 shekels. But if he sells the land to someone else, he can't redeem it anymore. That's verse 20. However, the field, when it's released in the Jubilee, will be holy to Adonai as a consecrated field. It will belong to the Kohanim. That's verse 21. We learned last week that as it is on earth, so it is in heaven. Every earthly law has a heavenly law that goes with it. What is the heavenly law for this? Two things. First, what is holy to the Lord cannot become unholy. If it's consecrated to God, it's God's forever. And second, God values our fruitfulness. So first, consecrating the land to the Kohanim represents consecrating it to God because the Kohanim are representing God. Now, this principle applies to false gods as well. In Joshua 6:18, whatever has been consecrated to false gods was to be completely and utterly destroyed. And back in our Torah portion, verse 29 says, "No one who may be set apart from men for destruction is to be ransomed. He is surely to be put to death." On the other hand, Nazarites are people who consecrate themselves to God. They can only be released from that vow if they bring expensive sacrifices to the temple. Second, God values our fruitfulness. Remember, it's the number of crops that set the value, not the land itself. These two things, being consecrated to God forever and God valuing our fruitfulness, have a spiritual application. How are we consecrating ourselves to Adonai? Romans 12:1 says, "I urge you, therefore, brothers and sisters, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your spiritual service." So, let's get on with being fruitful with our whole bodies, mind, soul, spirit, hands, and feet. Shabbat Shalom.